ASUS's Zephyrus G14 was the best 14-inch gaming laptop I tested last year, and now it's better than ever in 2026 with more FPS in games, more battery life, a brighter screen, and more. But as great as the new G14 is this year, no laptop is perfect. Here's everything you need to know. The G14 is available in platinum white or eclipse grey finishes. I've got the grey one. Build quality feels great thanks to its solid CNC machine chassis. There's only minor flex when going out of my way to push it hard. It's easy to open without the front lifting up, and the hinges feel smooth and sturdy, with less screen wobble compared to last gen. Fingerprints aren't too obvious, and would be even less so with the white finish, but it's easy enough to clean with a microfiber cloth. The G14 feels super portable. It's very easy to carry around, but I will note this year's AMD model is slightly thinner, as it's only available with lower tier graphics options. In fact, from what I can tell, the 2026 AMD model is using the 2025 chassis, so only the Intel version gets the new features that I'll be highlighting throughout this video. It's exactly the same size as last year's model, so a bit thicker compared to most of the other 14-inch gaming laptops on the market, but it's also the only one with more powerful 5070 Ti graphics too. And honestly, the size difference between them isn't that big anyway. The laptop by itself weighs in at 3.4 pounds or 1.6 kilos, increasing to about 5.1 pounds or 2.3 kilos with a 250 watt charger included. It weighs pretty much the same as last year's model, despite all the extra improvements it's packing. And it's also one of the lightest 14-inch models available, only beaten by ASUS's lower tier tough A14. It's a little heavier than last gen with the chargers included, as the G14 now has a larger 250 watt brick, up from 200 watts last gen, so the total package is 7% heavier now. But don't worry, this extra power does result in more performance. My G14 has Nvidia's RTX 5070 Ti laptop GPU, Intel's latest Panther Lake processor, 32 gigs of RAM, and a 14-inch OLED screen. But the G14 is available with lower or higher tier specs with the link below, and if it has a good sale, we'll list it on our gaminglaptop.deals website so you can save money. The chiclet keyboard still only has one zone of RGB backlighting. All keys and secondary functions get lit up, but I think not having per-key customization is kinda pathetic when you're spending Zephyrus money. Key brightness can be adjusted between 3 levels, or turned off with the F2 and F3 shortcuts, while the F4 Aura key can be used to change between 5 basic effects. You can also control the lighting effects through ASUS's Armory Crate software, which is the control panel for the laptop. This is also where you control the slash lighting on the lid, which has been upgraded this year from 7 lighting zones to 35 for more fluid animations. The keyboard still has 1.7mm of key travel, and I thought it felt nice to type on. The only thing I didn't like was the small arrow keys. The touchpad is big, smooth, and nice to click, though it's a bit harder to press down towards the top. Port selection is good for a 14-inch machine, with Type A and Type C ports on both sides, and the SD card slot gets upgraded from microSD to a regular full-sized SD slot this year. The display outputs offer a good mix for connecting to discrete or integrated graphics. Connecting to the DGPU provides VR support and better FPS in games, but connecting to the iGPU for lighter tasks means quieter fans. The bottom panel underneath is sturdier this year. Getting inside requires unscrewing 12 T5 screws of 3 different lengths, so keep track of them. The tools I use for opening laptops had me covered. I'll leave a link to them below. The screw down the front right corner doesn't come out of the panel and helps lift it up for opening, and the other 2 are at the back and can't easily be seen. Last year's G14 had these screws too, but now the covers are better blended in, which on the one hand looks nicer, but on the other hand means you're more likely to try and pull the bottom panel off with the screws still in like I did. Once inside, we've got the battery down the front, single M.2 storage slot which can fit drives with chips on both sides on the right, and the Wi-Fi card on the left. That's it. This results in a poor upgrade score, as RAM is soldered to the motherboard and can never be upgraded, and only one M.2 slot means upgrading storage either requires you to reinstall Windows Fresh or clone your existing drive. Speeds from the installed 1TB PCIe Gen 4 SSD were great, and the SD card slot maxes out my V90 rated card. The card does not click in for security, and it sticks out quite a bit, so be careful not to bump it. I've just moved house, so I had to throw away my old Wi-Fi data, but this year's G14 uses Intel Wi-Fi 7, which is an improvement over the MediaTek chip found in last year's model. There are front-facing speakers on either side of the keyboard, and underneath towards the front on the left and right sides. They sound excellent. Just like last year, they're probably the best speakers I've ever heard from a Windows gaming laptop. They've got nice bass, they're clear even at higher volume levels, with almost no wrist rest vibration. But the Latencymon results weren't great in our 5-minute idle test. Not terrible, just not great. The G14 is powered by the same 4-cell 73Wh battery as the last couple of years. Panel Power Saver is enabled by default, which automatically lowers the screen's refresh rate to 60Hz when you unplug the charger to save power. This is why the screen flashes black, and it goes back to 120Hz when you plug back in. You can enable battery care mode through the ASUS software to limit the maximum charge level to 80%, which helps improve the longevity of the battery. Or you could also enable eco mode through Armoury Crate, which disables the NVIDIA graphics and may help improve battery life if you don't need the more power-hungry NVIDIA GPU. Battery life was absolutely insane, lasting for over 15 hours in my YouTube video playback test. That's almost 45% longer compared to last year's G14, and it's all thanks to Intel's power-efficient Panther Lake processor. Gaming on the NVIDIA graphics was better too, but that result is more in line with other laptops tested. It would have lost approximately 8% of its battery charge while asleep for 24 hours, but it kept waking up after 6 hours, by which time it had drained 2%, so I've extrapolated the result to attempt to compare it with the rest. Anyway, this isn't a fair comparison with the other laptops, as it depends on the size of the laptop's battery. Here's how much power was lost on average per hour, which is a fair comparison. Granted, a bit less so in this case because I had issues keeping the G14 asleep for long periods. Though in practice, that's probably not going to be an issue, as ASUS have this option enabled by default that swaps it from sleeping to hibernating to save power. I just turned it off for my test. Let's check out thermals next. The CPU and GPU are covered by a standard cooler with a few heat pipes shared between both. The website mentions liquid metal, but it doesn't specify if it's on the CPU, GPU, or both. Air comes into the fans through the keyboard and these holes on the bottom panel. The air only gets exhausted out of the back, which now has a bigger opening, so no hot air blowing on your mouse hand. ASUS's Armoury Crate software allows us to change between different performance modes, which from lowest to highest are silent, performance, turbo, and manual. Both turbo and manual modes apply this overclock to the GPU, but only manual mode lets you customize it. Manual mode also lets you customize CPU and GPU power limits, temperature limits, and gives you some control over the fan curves. ASUS have these new fan options in their 2026 model, which lets you control how fast or slow the fans ramp up and down. A nice little extra customization that I haven't seen other laptops offer yet. I've asked ASUS if this will come to older models in an update, and I'm waiting to hear back. I'll update the pinned comment once I know. The internal temperatures are fine at idle. The rest of the results are from combined CPU and GPU stress tests, which aim to represent a worst-case full-load scenario, but the temps don't get too hot in most cases. I could lower temps by a few degrees by putting a basic metal stand underneath the laptop to let more air get into the fans, but running with the lid closed results in a warmer laptop, as this reduces reduces the amount of air it can pull in through the keyboard. And when you do this, the ASUS software even warns you about it. Manual mode with all power sliders maxed out and fans set to 50% speed resulted in thermal throttling, but it's quite cool with the fans maxed out, so you could absolutely find a better sweet spot in between with good performance with quieter fans than max. The cooling pad I test with, linked below, was able to lower temps a bit, but considering how much extra noise that adds compared to just using a stand, it's not really worth it. The GPU was able to run at basically its full 130 watt power limit in manual mode, though the processor only gets a 20 watt power budget, but spoiler, it still runs great in games despite this. The modes where it ran warmer resulted in the GPU using less power, in which case the CPU was able to take advantage of it, and that's why the highest CPU clock speeds were seen in these instances. Here's how an actual game performs with the different performance modes in use. The purple bars were tested with the screen's native resolution, while the red bars show DLSS upscaling on balanced to boost performance. Manual mode with the fans maxed wasn't that much faster compared to turbo mode, while gaming on Type-C power was about the same as using the larger 250 watt charger on silent mode. The CPU can use more power in a CPU-only workload like Cinebench, where the GPU is idle. Again, turbo and manual modes perform about the same, but the performance difference really isn't that big between all of the modes. We were able to get full performance with a Type-C charger connected, but there was some battery drain, about 3% in 15 minutes. Not too bad. It's basically the same as the only other Intel 386H laptop we've tested so far, ASUS's Zephyrus Duo 16. Multi-core performance is basically the same as last year's AMD-based G14, but there's an 8% boost to single-core performance with the Intel chip, which helps out in gaming, as we'll see soon. Performance doesn't lower too much when we unplug the charger and run on battery power. It's still basically tied with last year's G14 here, and basically matching their larger Zephyrus G16. We should be getting the 2026 model of the G16 soon, so make sure you're subscribed to see how much better that one is. As for keyboard temps, most laptops I test are in the low 30°C range on the keyboard at idle, and the G14 was right in line with this in the middle of the keyboard, and felt cool. It gets warmer with the stress test running, but the warmest spot in the middle only felt warm and not uncomfortable. Stepping up to performance mode was a few degrees warmer, as it's using more power now, and we can see the cool spots on the sides in blue where air is pulled through the keyboard. It's much the same in turbo mode, despite using even more power now, and that's because the fans get faster to compensate. The rest and WASD area still feel cool, and the middle is just a bit warm. It can run quite warm. In this test, I ran manual mode with the fans capped to 50%, but as we saw earlier, that resulted in thermal throttling, so probably don't run them that low. It's cooler with faster fans, and it performs better too. But the trade-off is of course more fan noise. This year's G14 was considerably cooler in its hotspot compared to last year's model, despite the newer 2026 version having a higher GPU power limit, so it looks like the improved cooling is working. In fact, the new G14 is now the coolest 14-inch gaming laptop we've tested in the last couple of years. But that matters less if the fans make us deaf to achieve it. Let's have a listen. Manual mode is only like 2 decibels higher than turbo mode, but decibels work on a logarithmic scale. That's why I also show zones, which better represents perceived loudness. And this shows us that manual mode is actually closer to 20% louder than turbo mode, at least with the fans maxed out for best results. You can of course customize it. Fan noise in turbo mode was a decibel higher compared to last year's G14, or a 7% perceived higher loudness level. Not the loudest 14-inch gaming laptop, it's still quieter compared to a number of larger 16-inch models, and it helps explain why it's cooler than last year's G14, considering how much quieter turbo mode is compared to maxing everything out in manual mode, and that performance in games wasn't really that different. Turbo mode definitely offers a much better sweet spot in terms of overall comfort level, and performance mode isn't a bad choice either if you want to run even quieter. As for the screen, the G14 gets a nice little upgrade this year. It's still a 120Hz OLED panel with the same resolution as last gen with excellent colors. Where the 2026 model shines is in brightness, with over 500 nits measured with the brightness set to 100%. ASUS says it can reach 1100 nits peak brightness in HDR mode, but we're only able to test sustained brightness. This makes it one of the brightest OLED panels we've ever tested, and about 25% brighter compared to last year in terms of nits. But because our eyes compress the brightness difference, in practice, this generation appears more like 8% brighter. There are also some options here to help reduce the risk of OLED burn-in. As always with OLED panels, screen response time is super fast, with it only taking about half a millisecond for content on screen to update. There's not really any practical difference between all of the OLED laptops we've tested. They're all fast and great for gaming on. Total system latency is the amount of time between a mouse click and when a gunshot fire appears on screen in Counter-Strike 2. This year's G14 is a little faster than last year's, and it's also broken our record for fastest 14-inch gaming laptop tested so far. But honestly, in the real world, I doubt you'd even notice the difference between these while gaming. They're all good. The G14 has advanced Optimus, allowing you to automatically get better FPS in games without a reboot. It's also got the classic muck switch, but that needs a reboot, and considering it doesn't change which GPU the ports connect to, there's no real point using it. G-Sync is available with Optimus off, and Adaptive Sync is available from the integrated graphics when Optimus is on, so no screen tearing within this refresh range. There's a 1080p camera above the screen in the middle. It has IR for Windows Hello Face Unlock. For some reason, there's this sort of blurring effect when you start moving, and here's how it sounds while typing on the keyboard. But how well does ASUS's new G14 perform in games? We've tested it with these settings to find out. Cyberpunk 2077 was reaching a 15% higher average frame rate compared to last year's G14 at 1080p. Impressive stuff considering it still has the same GPU inside. The difference is a bit smaller at 1440p, with the 2026 model about 9% faster, and that's mostly going to be a result of the higher GPU power limit at this higher resolution. I suspect the increased CPU single-core performance and faster memory speed mattered more at 1080p. The 2026 G14 is 12% faster than the 2025 G14 with the same GPU in Alan Wake 2 at 1080p. But what I found more impressive was that it's noticeably ahead compared to some of the biggest 16-inch models, like ASUS Helios Neo 16S or ASUS's Zephyrus G14 from last year. This continues at the higher 1440p resolution, as the new G14's higher GPU power limit provides a nice benefit, only coming in a few FPS behind much thicker and heavier laptops with the 5070 Ti inside. It's a similar deal in Black Myth Wukong at both resolutions. This level of performance from a 14-inch gaming laptop is very impressive, though it's worth keeping in mind that while it's basically tied with MSI's much larger and heavier Vector 16, the Vector is significantly cheaper too. But more on price in a moment. Results weren't too different with ray tracing and upscaling enabled. RT is more intensive, but combining DLSS can result in higher FPS compared to not using RT or DLSS. And of course, you could skip tracing those rays if you just want more FPS with DLSS. Here are the 3D Mark results. Content creator results weren't as impressive as the gaming results, with last year's cheaper AMD-based G14 coming out ahead in all cases. The BIOS looks fancy, but just like other ASUS gaming laptops, there's not too much you can customize through here. Linux support was good overall. The only thing that didn't work out of the box in the latest Ubuntu was the keyboard shortcut for screen brightness. Pricing and availability will change over time, so check the link below the video for updates and to see if there are any current sales. If the G14 has a good sale, we'll share it on our gaminglaptop.com Jarrod'sTech.deals website. We update that daily to include all of the best deals. So make sure you check it out regularly to save money on your next gaming laptop with that link below. At the time of recording in late May, ASUS's website lists the configuration I've tested for $3,600 US, and same price at Best Buy, though they've only just listed it, so it's not in stock yet. Again, check the link below for the latest, as this will change. Best Buy also has a $150 cheaper version with 16 gigs of RAM, but honestly, I don't think that should even be an option when you're spending this much. I'd highly suggest spending the extra to get 32 gigs, as you can never change it, and it's going to be a much better sweet spot going forward. So the G14 is very expensive, but it is worth keeping in mind that these are initial launch prices. Hopefully it gets a bit better once some sales roll around. Still, last year's version with similar key specs is like $700 to $800 cheaper without a sale, and we've seen it gone on sale for $1,900. So is it worth spending more on the new 2026 G14? Let's summarize the good and the bad to find out. Starting with the good, the 2026 Intel-based G14 has incredible battery life, a brighter OLED screen, amazing sounding speakers, premium build quality, great performance that can even compete with bigger 16-inch models, good thermals with a cooler keyboard hotspot than last gen, all while being in a small portable package. As for the bad, RAM is soldered and can't be upgraded, so you have to buy it with enough from the start. The single zone of keyboard backlighting isn't a deal breaker, but just feels like a miss by ASUS when you're spending this much. The fans are a little bit louder than last gen, which helps it feel cooler, and it's a little heavier with the bigger charger, though as we saw, that helps give it better performance. Mine had some issues staying asleep for hours at a time, but that's likely because I disabled the default of transitioning to hibernate. Bottom line, ASUS's Zephyrus G14 was the best 14-inch gaming laptop I tested last year, and now this year it's only gotten better. Most of those downsides like the soldered RAM and single-zone RGB keyboard aren't unique to the 2026 model. Ultimately, it depends on whether or not the newer model justifies such an extra price premium. And honestly, I do think the new model is worth spending more on if you've got that money available, because overall, this is just a nicer version of the G14 and you would appreciate it more using it for the next few years. That said, I'd be willing to spend maybe $300 more to get the new G14 over the older 2025 G14, but the current prices are kinda ridiculous. Again, keep an eye out on our deal site so you don't miss a good sale. If you're looking for a 14-inch gaming laptop, then check out this one next to see why the G14 blows away its competition.